Hello and welcome to Gabbett Media. I'm Grant Abbott and today I'm going to be sculpting an eye. So when sculpting an eye, it's just as important to know where it goes in the face. So I'm going to be sculpting a really basic face to go with this eye. If you want to skip that bit, I'll put in the description the point where the eye starts. And do look in the description for links to my website for other free courses just like this one. So I'm in the basic sculpt mode, so I've gone File, New and Sculpt. My shortcut keys are down the bottom here. I'll pull these out so we can read the names of the brushes, and I will pull out two screens so we can see the side and front. I'll press T to get rid of the tools and N to get rid of the tool panel there, and change this to the front and change this to the side. Okay, so I'll make a basic head shape, and the reason I want to make a head, if we look at my reference images, I'm using Pure Ref here. So here's the basic head shape, and where the eye sits is quite important, and therefore it's a good idea to practice the position of the eyes. We can see from this picture that we've got 5 eyes or eye widths across the face, and the eyes sit right in the middle of the head, and we've also got an eyeball's distance between the two eyes. So that's important from the front view. Then if we switch to side view, I think I've got one around here somewhere, yep, just there. You can see that the front of the face is marked here, or just this lip here. This is a little rough. The front of the eye and the back of the eye, in this case not quite the back of the eyeball because the eyeball will be back here, but where the eyelids end is the same distance as it is from the bridge of the nose there. So that's going to help us. And also this is roughly the middle of the eye, so the eye being this sort of shape, and we know that this is 1/3 in, so there's 1, 2, 3 of those before we get to roughly the middle of the head. So those are things that are important to bear in mind, and I do see quite a lot of beginners making very big eyes, very flat eyes right up here, or eyes that are too close together, lots of different mistakes like that, and that's really important to get used to. So when you're practicing your eyes, I would make a head shape first. So let's move that back out the way. So let's make a basic head shape. I'll go to my toolbox here, down to Dyn Topo, and I'm going to be using constant detail just to make it easier, and I think about 20 is a good starting point. Let's just have a look at what that looks like. With my snake hook tool, that's all fine. Okay, so I've got mirror turned on, and I start from the side. You can see the angle I'm at with my Cartesian coordinates up here. So let's create our head. Make my brush nice and big. The back of the head sort of is a dome coming out here. I like to tap as I'm doing these things, so tap, tap, tap. And already you can see sort of issues that you get when you do that sort of thing. So I've got to bring these out as well, smooth them off with the smooth brush. Hold down Shift for the smooth brush. Let's bring this in, pull it down, and we're getting the front of the head here. So again, just sort of move around every now and again, see what's going on, pull that down a bit further. I will pull out a neck, so I'll make my brush a bit smaller, just pull out a neck there, very basic neck of course. So I'm just moving around, getting a rough shape, and smoothing things out. That's why I haven't gone for too high detail, because my smooth brush will have a nice lot of effect. So let's look at it from the back, pull it down, across and in slightly, so we've got a sort of longish head. Let's make my brush bigger, out at the back, probably in a touch here. Not too far though. And just adjusting. You might want a reference image right next to you. So I'm just moving the shape around until it matches my reference. Slow adjustments to start off with. And I don't really need too much detail in the front there just yet, but I do need it to be nice and rounded, so the eye will sit in its socket properly. So just slow adjustments and keep tapping away until you have a head shape. So you might want a couple of reference images for this. It's worth noting that the ear is slightly behind the centre, so there's the centre line roughly at the moment, so the ear is about here, so the jawline wants to go forward a touch. Not that we're doing ears today. I'm going to get my draw tool in there, make my brush a bit smaller and highlight that jaw area like that. So very loosely. Let's highlight the nose slightly now. and then then start thinking about where the eyes will be. So remember, they're right in the middle, so if I go to front view, looks really odd in front view, and it's actually slightly helpful when it's like this, but my eyes are not quite in the center, they're a little bit low. But it looks really odd with orthographic view, doesn't it? So really basic nose there. Using the smooth brush to get rid of the inaccuracies. I won't do a mouth, there's no need. And roughly we're there. So getting the rough head shape, slowly building up the detail, not too high a brush detail, and just gently work on the shape until you're happy that it matches your reference images. The main point of this is to get an area that looks about right for the eye. Okay, so that's a very rough person. The eyes are roughly in the right place, although they're not back far enough yet, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's work on the eyes, and let's talk a little bit about eyes to start off with. So this is a good image, I would say, to talk about the eyeball. So we can see there's a slight oval shape that's coming at an angle like this. So the cheekbones drop down slightly there, and the socket is oval like this. Then we've got the distance it comes in. So this oval comes out towards the bridge of the nose there, but it comes backwards towards the ear down the bottom here. So this top point here sticks out more than this bottom point here, which sticks out the least, or is indented. So those are important things that we need to think about. Let's go back to our person and start thinking about that. So let's move in a bit and make my brush nice and big again and start thinking about that shape. So this has to come back, and I'm just going to bring the bridge of the nose in as well, so it's a bit more accurate, just a touch. And this bit down here comes back further than this bit up here. Okay, so it's very basic, so I'll smooth that out. So there's a sort of oval look here. Now again, this is very basic, but it's so I can position my eyeball, which I'm going to do now. I'll just bring this forward slightly, or back slightly I should say. I'm just thinking about where the lips and things should go. They're not as important, but I just want to be roughly correct. So let's get our eyeball now. So I'm pressing on the plus icon and going to General Layout. So I'm right in the center with my 3D cursor. So Shift A, Add Mesh, UV Sphere. I'll rotate my UV sphere in the X-axis 90 degrees, so RX then 90. And therefore my eye is pointing the right way. I'm going to move it in edit mode now. So I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode, scale it down, and we can't see it, so I'll go to wireframe, Z on my keyboard, wireframe, and that's obviously way too big. Let's go to front view to help us. So let's scale this down, and remember there's 5 eyeballs to the face. So somewhere around about here. And I'm actually just going to duplicate that, Shift D, and then X to constrain it to the X-axis, and I'm way out, aren't I? So I need to make these smaller, scale it down a bit more. There's probably an easier way to do this. I'm being very long-winded. Shift D on the X-axis, and Shift D on the X-axis. We're getting there now, that's good. Okay, so I'll delete that one. So delete faces, and the middle one, if I press L, whilst hovering over it, that will select just those faces, and then press delete, get rid of those. And now because my center point is right in the middle, I can add a mirror modifier. There we go, and I know the eyeballs are in roughly the right place, except for the side view. So let's go to side view, press A to select them all, and G to grab in the Y axis, so G then Y. So remember what we were saying about how far it went forward? The middle of the head is going to be somewhere around here. And in fact, what I'll do, just for the sake of this, is go into object mode, grab my head, and move that in the Y-axis. So there we go. There's the middle of the head, and it will follow our axis line. I'm starting to see some inaccuracies now in my shape, but we can sort that out later. The chin is going all over the place, and the nose sticks out a bit too far. So let's grab our eye again, G, then Y, and move it forwards. It's going to be roughly around there. And so here's my bridge. I probably need to bring my bridge in a bit more. So it's going to be about there. Then we've got this distance is the same as this distance, which is looking good. So that's where my eyelids will meet in the corner. And so this distance is a third of this distance to the middle. Hopefully that all makes sense. I do have to bring my bridge in a touch more though. So let's click on our head and go back to sculpting. So there's a bit of work to do, as you can see in the shape. I'll start working on the head. So I'll pull those in a bit, pull this area across a bit, this area down just a touch as well, so we've got a nice area to work with. And as I said, I need to bring that bridge in a bit more, somewhere like there, which needs to sort out the nose. Then I'll just quickly do that, it won't take me too long. There, that's a touch better. Not that much though. I can't help but start working on this a bit now, so I'll have to stop doing that because it's an eye tutorial. I do want to bring this in just a touch. I feel like my eyes are a bit big, so I think my head must be too wide. Can you see the importance now of having the head there so you can actually line up things properly? And I feel like the eyes are still a bit too big, so they'll need to come a bit closer together, and my head shape needs to just come in just a touch as well. But it's really important to get these things right before starting to do any details in here. It will look dreadful if you start trying to edit this and it's all in the wrong position, or if you're starting to work on faces and you start to try and do the details without having it in the correct position. It can be a real pain. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to go back to layout mode so you can see what I'm doing. Click on the eyes and scale them in just a touch. I will have to bring them forward as well, so let's go to front view there, side view, and just grab them forward a touch. To be honest, that looks alright though. So we've got bridge of the nose, probably a little bit further forward, grab Y, bridge of the nose, that needs to come down a touch, so it needs to be there, and then from there to there should be the same. There to there should be the same. I need to bring my actual eye socket back a bit as well. Okay, so let's click on our face, go to sculpting, and let's work on those things. So I'll actually go to side view this time, move in, just drag this down a touch, and that out really slightly. I'm still working on the head a little bit too much, but I feel like that's so necessary. I tried this tutorial a few times thinking, well, I'll just work on the eyes, but I don't really practice like that, so it was a bit fake and pointless. So this is how I would work. I would want to do the face and actually practice the eyes in this way. Okay, so let's try and get that oval a bit more correct. So we got up here, it's coming out here more, and down this way, out this way. Let's look around this side. We need this to come in more, don't we? And that oval out there in here. I'm just tapping away again, that's important. There is actually, looking at my reference, it's not a pure oval, there's sort of a straight line down here, and the eyelids will meet there, and then we'll see the edge of our eye socket. Okay, let's have a look. It looks quite worried at the moment. Let's just smooth that out a couple of times, but I think we're slowly getting there. So look, have a good look around your model. Think, is this correct? I think the eyebrows are too high now, so we'll bring those down and bring all our socket down a bit more. That's better. Smooth out every now and again, because remember, we're just getting the basic shape. Okay, so we're in a position now where we can start actually working on the eyelids. So I think a draw brush will be fine for this. Bring my brush size down a bit, and I'm actually just going to bring this out to cover the eyeball, and then let's bring my brush down a bit as well and up the resolution. We'll go to 25 now, not too much, just enough, and indent those eyeballs, those eyelids, so we can start seeing the eye. Okay, so a rough oval shape for now, although eyes aren't completely oval. And draw a bit more where you need the thickness, so around here. So at the moment it's fairly oval, but we'll change that shortly. And we want the shape, just smooth that out just a touch, to follow the eyeball, so a little bit more plumpness around here. And that's a fine start. Okay, so let's have a look at that. It's probably a little bit too low res, so we'll go up to 30 there. And let's have a look and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to start working on the shape and area around the eyeballs. So brush a bit bigger, there's more of a dent in here. Depending on who you're looking at, I suppose. This bit's a bit smoother. Looking at my reference images, I'm looking at Tom Hiddleston at the moment. This area is plumper around here. And this area is a bit closer, so we can start building up sort of muscles around the eyebrow now. Let's look at it from an angle like this. So we're seeing a bit more shape now. And just have a good look around. Zooming out a bit. I'm just going to put an indentation in here. So that's how the skull sort of goes up and around there, and around there. And smooth that out just a touch. So there's just a tiny bit of definition there. And I'm going to indent this really slightly as well. Okay, once again, important to get that shape right. I still don't feel like this is quite right. The eyeballs look too big. So I think it may be just the fact that I haven't got enough of the eyelids just yet. So I can up the resolution just a touch and start working on the eyelids. So I've gone to 35 now. Brush down a bit more. Let's build those eyelids up just a bit more. I'm going to do a tiny dent there. Can't remember what that's called now. And build up around here as well. Just keep looking around the side, making sure they're not sticking out too far. And use your smooth brush to sort that out if it does. Okay, let's zoom out. I'll zoom in with these ones, that will probably help. It's not looking too bad. Still a long way to go. Just going to come out of orthographic there. I should change the lens a bit on this one, but I'm not going to worry too much. I'm just going to go to sort of 3D perspective view there. Now my top eyelid should come slightly forward and over the iris. So if we're looking at our sphere, we can see we've got a sort of iris there. They do stick out a bit because you've got a lens in there as well, but I'm not going to bother about that at the moment. It is marginal, to be honest, so it shouldn't matter too much. But I do need to bring this eyelid just down a touch. I'm going to draw it down rather than pull it down with any grab brushes. And I'm going to up my resolution. So on the eyelids, you do need to go a bit more detailed. How are we looking? He looks very dopey now, so we're not quite right. And I'm just going to smooth the bottom out here. Okay, so let's get the grab brush now and start thinking about the shape of our eyelid. So we've got a bit of height here, and then it slowly goes down into the corner, and we go sort of up and down and round. Hopefully that made sense, but you should be able to see from your reference images that the eye looks a bit more like this. Still looking a touch dopey. I think maybe my irises might be a bit too big. Not too bad from the side angle. Let's have a look in sort of perspective mode there. And the eyeballs are looking way in the distance rather than at us in the camera, so if I go out to about here it makes more sense. It's still not quite looking right, is it? I feel like we need a bit more flesh here. So slowly bringing up the plumpness of the eyes. And on top here now, I think we need a bit more. That's okay. I'll just get the grab brush a little bit bigger and just pull that up just a touch, so it's a touch more alert. And we're getting there. Now I'm going to go a bit more detailed then, so about 60, and start thinking about creases and shape. So crease brush, bring it down, and there's a sort of general crease in here, isn't there? Let's go further in, crease it around to about here. So this is where the eyelid folds under, and then it sort of pushes out this way and up into that area there and round down there. Just sort of smooth that out. I might need more detail in a second, but I'm just getting the rough shape, so it's like drawing a guiding line to start with. We've certainly got a crease where the eyelids meet, and I'm going to reverse crease, so brush a tiny bit smaller, hold down control and pinch this eyelid, so we've got a sort of reverse crease, so a crease that sticks out, and that goes off down here, and then it starts around here and for the bottom eyelid as well. I may not have enough detail just at the moment, but we can increase that in a second. A light smooth, and there's a gentle crease in here coming down this way and just under the eyeball and coming round and up that way, so there and round. Smooth that out a touch, and let's see how that's looking. It's looking okay. Let's get the grab brush, pull that bit down, and it's alright. It's not brilliant, it's alright. So good look round. I feel a bit like the eyes are still too big, so at this point would not be a good point to change the eyeballs and move them around really, because I've gone up so high in the detail. So I probably should have thought about that a bit earlier before adding the detail. Just going to adapt the shape really slightly. There we go, that's a bit more of the reference image coming out now. I do think it is the case that you keep having to work on something and it slowly gets there, tap away, draw away, and you slowly get there. I'm just making minor adjustments, and I'm using the grab brush that doesn't add any topology to these areas around here. I do seem to find the eyes a bit harder than the nose and the mouth for some reason, so I'm going a bit slower than I normally would for those. I obviously need more practice. Okay, so let's up the resolution a bit more and start affecting the creases more. So you can crease underneath your eye just to kind of smooth out the eyelid a bit, so it's working inside the eye in a sense. In here, creasing down. Hold down control to pull out. And I'm just going to use the draw brush to make that sort of area in there. Can't remember what it's called again. Don't know the names of all this stuff. I should, because I should learn the anatomy names as well. So I'm just slowly following along with the reference image, trying to get a bit more detail out, up the resolution for that purpose. Get that crease brush and really start working that crease now. Using the crease brush for those lines and indents, which the eye obviously has a lot of those creases, so the crease brush is perfect. If you combine it with the smooth brush as well, it does help, I find, to just sort of smooth things out. And you can combine it nicely with the pinch brush as well. As you can see there, it pulls all the topology together, and then when you smooth, it helps. At that point, it is often better to be on relative detail and subdivide edges. So for the sake of learning, let's have a look at that. So relative details, that will be affected by how far I'm zoomed in, and subdivide edges. That means it won't collapse when I'm far out here and do something. It doesn't collapse the topology. So let's bring this down to about 4 and see how that's affecting it. Might go down a bit lower in a second. Let's bring the eyelid out more. Let's have a look at that, smooth it out a bit. I can probably go a lower resolution. Just plumping up this area a bit, I think it's a bit too far back. Looking at the side image, it might need to come a fair bit further forward actually, but I'll keep working on it and see about that in a moment. So now we're starting to see a bit more of an eye, and it's kind of starting to work. Just generally smoothing out these areas now. This bit's a little bit too wide at the moment, but I'm getting on my crease brush and just indenting that a bit more. And then I'll smooth this area about a bit more, so it makes a little bit more sense. It's not looking too bad. I think the eyelids need a bit of tidying up. They look very thick at the moment. So let's just get the crease brush, fairly small, and hold down Control to bring in a crease. And then smooth it out. So that will make the topology follow the curve that I'm drawing, and then when we smooth it out, that will round it out a bit more. Going to crease in here just to pull that in, smooth that area up a bit, and do the same down the bottom. So nice clean curves. I find this much easier with a display tablet, getting those sort of clean curves, than it is with a graphics tablet. Let's have a look. It's looking okay, just smooth that out a bit. Might go a bit lower now to 3, just to really sharpen things up. Okay, so there's some basic eyes. Now in order to practice, taking the basic head shape and then copying it a few times and then practicing those detailed areas. It's a good idea to practice your basic head shape as well. So although it's an eye tutorial, it's very difficult to do an eye tutorial without doing a very basic head shape. I'm seeing all sorts of inaccuracies now in my head. This cheek is way too low here, it needs to be pushed up there, and obviously around this area as well. The brow line probably needs to go a bit flatter down there. All sorts of problems, but the main thing we're focused on is the eye, and of course practice, failure and practice. So keep failing with your sculpts, keep failing, and you'll gradually get better. So there we have it, the basics of doing an eye. Quite a tough one. Remember to show your progress as well. Get across to the Discord server, chat to me there if you like, and upload your sculpts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.